This Jocks 94.5 podcast is brought to you by Millennium Satellite and Video. Log on to msbnow.com. TV excellence everywhere. That's Millennium. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning starts now.
All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Appreciate you guys being with us. 800-239-9569 if you want to get in. 800-239-WJOX. We're going to talk some of the ESPN FPI, which came out on Friday. And a lot of folks immediately want to get mad at this, are going to get mad at this, saying that it's promoting certain teams from certain leagues. I don't think that there's a way that you take the ESPN FPI and say that it drives teams into the playoff. Or, I mean, some people may, for whatever reason, find a way to believe that. I personally don't believe that. But it's okay. If certain people want to think that and believe that, then they can, and they can think that that's what it is. But it does give us some talking points on maybe who appears like they're going to be what this upcoming season, who's going to be able to make the playoff, not make the playoff, because it just gives us sort of a starting point on what the computers think about this upcoming season. We're not taking this as a definitive. We're not taking this as a definitely will be. And what we think about the upcoming season is just a starting point for a couple of conversations. Kind of like Bromberg's can be for a lot of people around Birmingham, Greg, if they're looking for different items.
Yeah, and Bromberg's the best. You can go and get a bunch of different things there. For example, you can go and get wedding gifts. A lot of registries are there. You can go get special items that will be passed down for multiple generations. Of course, you can get natural diamonds, which are amazing stories in and of themselves. It began to be created, the pressure underneath the earth 3 billion years ago, 100 miles deep. It's a luxury like no other, and a natural diamond is not only a gift to the wearer, but also to the people and the economies of the countries in which they're found. The natural diamonds actually support the livelihood of 10 million people worldwide and actually saves millions of animals and things like that from extinction. It protects 3 times the amount of land it uses for diamond recovery. So all over the world, to discover the latest natural diamond jewelry, visit Bromberg's in Mountain Brook or at the Summit. You can also go online at brombergs.com.
All right, so the ESPN FPI, when you look at where these teams are ranked, what these teams are, what the computers think that they are going to be. We'll start with just the rankings. Just kind of top to bottom, 1 through 15, 25, whatever we make it through today, and just kind of how the computers see those. Ohio State is your number 1 team. Texas, Notre Dame, Oregon, Georgia. Indiana at 6, Greg, had a lot of people upset because that's your defending national champion. That's your team that went undefeated last year. And I think a lot of it has to do, too, with I don't think they were in the ESPN FPI top 25 going into last year. So a lot of people look at it and say, all right, this metric disrespected this team last year. They were wrong. Feels like they may be just, and I know it's not intentional, disrespecting them this year, but that was one that I think stuck out most to a lot of people. First off is that, hey, your undefeated national champion last year is going to start the season at 6. That doesn't feel right.
Yeah, well, the thing that I would say is it's a power rating. Like everyone makes this out to be a ranking. It's not a ranking. It is a list of teams that are power rated. It's no different than the power ratings that are utilized in Vegas. On a neutral site, given the talent, given the personnel, given the returning production, giving all this stuff, that's how the computers sort them out. And I don't know how they come up with different variables. I'm not a mathematician, nor am I a statistician, but I do know that power ratings and rankings are 2 very different things. For example, how many times have we talked about, and this is not that dissimilar to the conversation we had a few weeks ago about does the best team always win the national championship? The answer, in my opinion, is no, because the best team might be the team that is favored against everybody else. So, like on paper, they're the best team, but just didn't materialize. They lost a game. They didn't protect the ball. They made a key mistake, whatever it might be. So that's the beauty of running the table and running the gauntlet and all this other stuff. Like the team that ends up winning the championship might have been the most opportunistic, or might have done the best job of managing the circumstances and things like that. But this is a power rating. It is not a ranking. And I think when people have a hard time understanding that, because you put a number next to a team's name, they lose their minds because it's not how they see it.
It's totally fair.
But it's not. It shouldn't be that complicated. I don't know why people struggle with this so much. Every year, I feel like we're talking people off the ledge because of the FPI power ratings. That it's purely about how much talent they have and what their personnel looks like.
I don't think. I mean, this is just me personally. And maybe ESPN doesn't really care to. I don't think that they. I don't think they do a great job explaining what it is. And maybe it's just because it kind of is what it is, and they're gonna have that and leave it there. But like they don't. Let's just be real. They don't have a lot of conversations with us about, hey, this is how we want you to explain this. This is how we want you to talk about this. Something that can be utilized, something that can be weaponized, can be there for discussions, but I don't think to the general public it's explained very well, and it's explained enough for them to be able to have those discussions that you are talking about, which probably should be happening that way. Certain people were like, how is South Carolina at 23? Well, it's like what you just said. Look at some of the guys that they have comparatively to Iowa, Washington, Florida State, Vanderbilt, who are the teams just behind them. And that's like Florida. How is Florida at 18? We've talked about it the whole offseason. They got guys, man. Like, now they have to stay healthy. They got to understand the new system and scheme. Like, they got to be on the same page. But they got dudes that are going to be a problem if they're playing good football. Like, that's the reality of it. So
it's essentially this. If Ohio State played anybody on a neutral field, mind you, they'd be favored. Texas would be favored against everybody not named Ohio State. Notre Dame would be favored against everybody not named Texas and Ohio State. Oregon favored against everybody not named Notre Dame, Texas, and Ohio State. It's people just, I think, have a hard time understanding because they look at all of this. It's purely about who would be favored, neutral field favorability. That's what these power ratings are all about. And yeah, going on the road, circumstantial changes throughout the season, improved play, disappointing play, based on what we know right now, which, by the way, we don't know a lot. Every year, you're kind of starting from scratch. That's how it goes. People are losing their mind about Penn State. Penn State's got a lot of guys. They're at 17. I know they weren't good last year, but they're at 17. They also have a pretty manageable schedule. They also have a lot of guys that have played football, albeit a different place, but a lot of guys that have played football. Oh, wait, hang on a second. How is South Carolina? How is Auburn? Wait, what? How are these possible? Like, you have all these teams that won a ton of games last year, and yet they're ranked a lot higher or a lot lower than teams that didn't win any games. And teams that might not, and you can even look at the projected win-loss total, for example, according to the FPI. Auburn's at 6.5 wins, and yet they still rank in the top 22. So they are acknowledging the likelihood that their record's not great, but their ceiling and the talent they have on their roster and the production they have on their roster would indicate they would be favored against everyone except for the 21 teams ranked right in front of them.
Absolutely. I don't want to ask you this because I think you've probably looked at it closely. I want to ask John and Damian this, and that references kind of the projection portion of the ESPN FPI. John, if I asked you how many teams do you think the ESPN FPI is projecting to win 10 or more games in college football this year?
4.
Okay. Greg, do you know the answer? Like offhand?
No, but I would guess 5 or 6.
Damian?
It's like 3.
The answer is 6. So it would be the top 6, which we just gave you a few moments ago. It would be Texas Tech, Notre Dame. I'm sorry, Texas Tech's at 10, and Miami's at 7. So it would be 2 teams out of the top 6. Indiana would be the last one at 6. Texas Tech, Notre Dame, Miami, Ohio State, Oregon, Indiana would be your teams that are projected to win 10 or more games. Now, there's a certain league that was left out of that.
6 teams, not in the SEC.
Correct. You good with that? You feel okay about that?
Yeah, I think the likelihood of winning 10 games outside of the SEC is better than the likelihood of winning 10 games inside the SEC. I think it's really hard to win that many games in the SEC. That's understandable.
Is there one of those that you would immediately push back against?
Probably Texas Tech.
Even with a lighter schedule this year?
The
I don't
schedule's
feel like,
super light.
Yeah. I mean, I think we talked about this. I think the Houston game can be problematic. Cincinnati's going to be interesting / complicated, plus it's on the road. You do get back-to-back road games late in the season at Oak State, at Baylor. But there's not a game that you point to on that schedule that you just say they're not going to win that game. They should. They should win 10 games. They should. Even with Will Hammond at quarterback, they should win 10 games. Should be fine. Notre Dame, same way. When you look at the schedule, should win 10 games. Miami, tough game. Not going to say that you should definitively win that game. Could win that game. At BYU, going to be tough? Absolutely. But should win that game. You have a chance you play good football to win that game. I think SMU is one that's not even being talked about on their schedule right now, but probably should be. But you play your brand of football, you should win 10 games against that schedule, Greg. You agree?
Yes.
Yeah. Now.
Then again, they have lost a couple that are head scratchers in the past. So, like, is there a possibility they have one that they don't take care of business against? Yeah, it's possible. I don't think it's likely, but I think it's possible.
I'm going to tell you the one that surprised me the most on this list. If we just want to go with this projection, where teams are, because it was 10.8 for Texas Tech, 10.7 for Notre Dame, 10.4 for Miami, and then 10.2 for Ohio State. Obviously, the computers love Ohio State. This is not an easy schedule.
No.
You're at Texas week 2. You've got Illinois on the schedule, be it at home. I think that's still a tough game. At Iowa is not going to be an easy game. At Indiana, at SC the week after you play at Indiana. Then you get Oregon at home the week after those two games. You're at Nebraska on November 21st, which unfortunately for Nebraska, we know that's not going to be allowed to be a night game because the temperature is going to be probably below 50. So they're not allowed to do that. But then you play Michigan, which we think is going to be a much better football team this year. Or maybe, do I say better or do I say a more responsible football team? I'm going to say better. I think Michigan's going to be better. So that's a tough schedule, Greg, no matter how you spin it. Some people might not like that, but that is not a schedule that I look at and say, oh, yeah, they should pull 10 wins out of that. They can push for it, but that's not a given that they're going to get 10 wins.
All fair. If you had to pick a team right now that you expect to win 10, how many more you feel better about than Ohio State?
Texas Tech, yes. Notre Dame, yes.
That's schedule dependent. I get what you're saying.
Sure. However, Miami, yes.
Ohio State is among the most.
Miami might have the lightest schedule of all these teams we've mentioned, by the way.
I think Ohio State is probably among the most trustworthy teams in the sport. So they have earned the right to be trustworthy. They have earned the right to be held in high regard every preseason. Like, if I'm going to be wrong on Ohio State, it's going to be proven throughout the course of the season, because I'm going to start with a glass half full evaluation of them every year, because I trust Ryan Day, I trust their staff and their personnel and how they've recruited. So I get what you're saying. It's a much tougher schedule than it's been, I think, in the last couple of years, but I'm still super optimistic about what they can be at Indiana, at SC, like you said, at Nebraska, Oregon at home. I get it. If they win 10, if they won 9, for example, I wouldn't be shocked. But if they win 9, depending on which 9 they win, I still think they're going to be in a good spot to make the college football playoff, because that's how tough the schedule is.
What about Oregon's schedule? When you look at them potentially getting to, I'm going to tell you the part about Oregon's schedule that is going to be left out is the non-conference. I think Boise State is going to be a good football team this year. Now, you lose a couple weapons, but they're going to be solid in week 1. You just never know. At Oak State, Again, not that that's a game that they shouldn't win, but complicated. Mm-hmm. On the road, 11 a.m., that's a weird game.
It is.
You're at USC. You're at Illinois. You're at Ohio State. You play Michigan. You play Washington. Like, those are tough games that are not givens. Now, when you put the Oregon film on, should they win those games? Yes, probably. Now, I'm not going to say they should beat Ohio State, but most of those games, they're going to have more talent. They're going to be a better team then. But kind of like what you mentioned with Notre Dame, Greg, like we've seen Oregon in a couple of spots the last few years kind of not look like themselves. And usually what happens is, teams that can sort of go right at them can give them some fits. I don't know if they'll have those advantages this year against this Oregon team. And I also don't know how many teams are like that on this schedule. But it is not one that I look at and just say, oh, yeah, 10 wins a given. We've seen those schedules. We've seen it with kind of like Missouri, Ole Miss the last few years. We've seen it with Oregon in the past. We've seen it with Notre Dame. Like, this is not one of those schedules that I look at and say, based on the schedule, they should get to 10. This is not what I see in front of Oregon this year.
No, and I do think the non-con's tricky. I think at Oklahoma State's tricky. That'll be an early game for them. It's an 11 a.m. local game, so that means 9 a.m. Oregon time, which is not the end of the world. Like, I think they'll be okay. If anything, it'll be a slightly sleepy environment there in Stillwater. But it's the first game that Oklahoma State has had of significance, it feels like, in a few years. So I think they'll be up for that one. And obviously with the refresh that they've pressed this off season, there's a lot of reason for optimism. At SC will be tricky. At Ohio State will be tricky. Michigan at home will be tough. I think Washington's got a chance to be a pretty good football team. But still, I'd be very surprised if Oregon is not a 10-win football team.
All right, what about
Ohio State's a beast, no doubt. But at SC, I kind of lean Oregon there still. Even though I like SC a lot this year, I think Oklahoma State will find out quickly that there's still a gap there between what they did last year at North Texas and what they're doing this year at Oklahoma State. There's going to be a big gap there, so that could be a bit of an eye-opener. But yeah, I don't dislike Oregon's schedule as much as you do, apparently.
I just think it's more complicated than people are going to discuss. They're going to say, well, it's Oregon, and then look at the other teams, not give the other teams respect they deserve, and think that they should be at 11 or 12 wins.
Just the big key for them is, like, how many of those games are going to be at 11 a.m. local kicks, Central? Like the Ohio State game, probably.
Yeah, because big noon kickoff, yes. I'd have to look at the other games on the schedule, like maybe Michigan. Washington won't be because that'll be Ohio State, Michigan.
Michigan's at home for Oregon. So,
got you.
But
at Illinois, I don't know what else is that weekend.
At Illinois, maybe, I mean, that's possible. Like, you already have Oklahoma State. You got Ohio State more than likely. So you have two games right now for sure that are going to be at 9 a.m. local kicks Pacific time.
Yeah, if they're a top three team, I don't know what else is on the weekend of 11:20, but that's already 7 p.m. Wait, how are they playing at Michigan State at night? It's going to be cold.
It's true.
Somebody got a waiver. I don't know how that's happening.
Exceptions to the rules.
The team that I think is that I would have higher here, if you're talking about percentage chance of getting to 10, would be Indiana. Because the non-con is not complicated. North Texas, Howard, Western Kentucky.
Schedule's tougher than it's been, though.
Northwestern, at Rutgers, at Nebraska, Ohio State, at Michigan, Minnesota, who I think is going to be better than people believe this year. SC should be good. Get them at home. At Washington, and then Purdue. They should absolutely be at 10 wins. I have almost more confidence in that schedule than the others. Now, some of that is because of what they were last year and what Cignetti has been the last 2 years, but they should be 10 or more wins. I think
they should. They should get to 10. I have a hard time seeing anything worse than that. I do think the Washington game could be tricky. I think the Ohio State game, of course, will be very difficult. At Michigan will be tough, but I mean, still, I mean, your SC will be tough, but I mean, you're kind of searching for a letdown spot, and it's hard for me to find one.
Okay, let's do this. Let's take some of the teams right after that are projected in the 9-win range that we think should be, or very easily could be in the 10-win range. But first, you guys know the Alabama heat and humidity can be brutal. Don't let it affect your home and family. Keep them comfortable with an affordable Trane cooling system recognized as America's most trusted brand. 12 consecutive years. You can rely on a Trane. Find a comfort specialist near you at Trane.com. More college football talk next on Jocks.
Don't leave Jocks back at the house. Download the Jocks 94.5 app and take us anywhere. In the car, at work, or at the game. Live audio, video, and podcasts on your schedule. The Jocks 94.5 app, wherever you may be.
All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning, talking college football, ESPN FPI. E. Robinson tweeting in, It really doesn't matter if this is a rating or a ranking, guys. At Indiana football, as currently constructed, is not the team that won the ship last season. Every single team right now is different than it was last year. So should we not have discussions about who should be ranked where or what we think they should be ranked?
It's all projection.
Also not really sure why that should affect Indiana's ranking. We still should have thoughts on where they should be, right? What they should be, potentially can be.
You would think, yeah.
Kirk Cignetti's still the head coach over there.
I mean, I feel like, hey, you should look at it as this is where we like Indiana to be. This is what we think Indiana could be. But as we talked about before, this is a metric that looks at what teams are possibly going to be and a projection of what they're going to be. And we didn't just talk about Indiana. And by the way, they're not ranked number one. If you go by ranking, Ohio State, Texas, Notre Dame, Oregon, Georgia, as of now, are more highly thought of than Indiana. Now, two teams ranked below Indiana are projected to have more wins. Miami and Texas Tech, not ranked as high, but projected to have more wins. So conversation starter is what we referenced it as earlier, and that's why we're going to continue to do it right here on Jocks. 800-239-9569 if you want to get in. You can also tweet in at Mac and Cube. Be a part of the show there. Text or call in 205-834-9450. So teams that come in a little bit behind those projected 10-win teams. Georgia at 9.9. Texas at 9.8. I don't think any of us would look at that and say we're surprised they're on the brink of being a 10-win team or projected to be a 10-win team.
No issue there. Quick question, though. Just pushing back. My biggest issue with people's response to the FPI, before we get into the 9-win teams, just real quickly as it relates to Indiana. Cole, why is it that people are acting like this is going to impact our evaluations of teams being considered for playoff spots? Like, just because your schedule looks difficult in the preseason doesn't mean it's actually going to be difficult. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's where I kind of struggle with this. Because you're like, oh, well, this is going to impact people's view of teams and the schedule they play. That's not true. Not if you do your job and watch, all right, the teams we expected to be good, they're not quite as good as they once were. And, oh, by the way, the teams that we thought weren't good last year that became good, oh, yeah, you're going to get credit for that. A la Vanderbilt last year. How many people thought Vanderbilt was going to win 10 games? No one. But guess what? When you got that win against Vanderbilt, that ended up being a pretty good win. So I just think that, like, if we're doing our jobs appropriately, we will adjust week to week or month to month what's a good win, what's not a good win, because of what these teams actually are, not what we thought they were in the preseason.
It's going to change. I mean,
1,000%.
it's going to be different, right? Like teams that we look at that we think are going to be this, going to be that, going to be great, going to be okay. Like some are going to be a lot better than we think. Some aren't going to be as good as we think. It's going to be different. So this is just something that we use as a bit of a projection that is a starting point for the conversation of what this upcoming season may be. Now, I gave you two. How many teams do you think the ESPN FBI is projecting to win 9 games this year?
Oh, goodness. So we had 6 for 10.
I was thinking 14, 15.
Okay.
I'm going
to say 10.
I was going to say 7.
Try 4.
Okay.
Whew.
We got Texas and Georgia.
In addition to the 10-win teams, that's 10. Yeah, that's about right.
No.
I mean, 10 teams.
No, 4 different teams outside of the 10
Correct.
that are projected to just win 9 games.
Correct.
Texas, Georgia.
So they have 10 teams. They have 10 teams projected to be 9 and 3 or better.
Correct.
All together.
Yeah.
4 with 9 and 3
Yes.
next to their name or thereabouts.
Correct.
So that's probably not. I mean, what was it last year? 15 teams were like 9 and 3 or better thereabouts, roughly.
I believe so.
Yeah. So
But when
it's not
you
too
take
far
it,
off.
so what? But Georgia, Texas, we know them. What if I told you that 2 of those teams were BYU and UNLV,
With Jackson Arnold?
and then the other team was Penn State? That removes a lot of teams that I think we believe will be in the 9-win range that are not projected to be in the 9-win range. right there because we haven't had a lot of lengthy conversations on UNLV this year. We love Coach Mullen. Jackson Arnold might be a good fit in that offense, but we've seen the schedule, could easily. But Penn State's one that, we love Matt Campbell.
Love him.
And you got a quarterback in Rocco Beck that has been great in that system for a long time. You bring a lot of guys with you. Still a lot of news. Still got to work. Still a little bit different level of football.
Yeah.
BYU, easily we think that they could be there because you got a returning quarterback. Your offensive line, most part, back intact, solidified. We know the style of ball you play. Could be a really nice season for BYU. Not surprising. I think it's just that teams like LSU, SMU, Texas A&M are not in that 9-win range. And there's some teams like Oklahoma, Ole Miss that I think a lot of people look at and say, oh, they should be a 9-win team. They're probably going to be a 9-win team this year. That are not included in that. So, again, these are projections. We don't know. But it's an interesting starting point to what you look at as this season's going to be and say, man, if all of these teams that they're not putting in the 9-win range are not winning 9 games, what are people saying about those teams and what's happening this season?
Yeah. But I was under the impression that, I feel like, especially when we talked about Auburn and some other schools, like I'd be happy with a 9-3. I'd be happy with an 8-4. Like, dude, what I think everyone is now seeing is like, dude, 9-3 now moving forward, like that makes you a top 10 team probably.
Yeah, but people don't want to hear that.
People don't want to hear it. I'm not saying they don't want to hear it. I get that. But 9-3 with adding a 9th conference game, in some cases you got 5 conference games on the road. You're now seeing that kind of across the board, and in a league that is deep like the SEC is, like a 9-3 year is going to end up being a really good year. 9-3 today is comparable to probably an 11-1 or a 10-2 3 or 4 years ago. I mean, just the way you can't stockpile rosters, the lack of depth, you're very injury reliant. You got to win the margins. Like it's a very different animal.
Jolly tweets in, LOL, I'm not discounting anything in relation to Indiana. I've done it the last 2 years. Ended up flat on my face with my prediction. Like Damian said, Cignetti is still the coach. It's the reality of it, man. And there's a core of the front 7, the offensive line that returns, a talented quarterback that you're plugging in that's played a lot of football, that situation has worked well the last 2 years. Like, we've completely forgot about what Curtis Rourke did 2 years ago and had a hell of a season. And that has been forgotten about because Mendoza was so awesome last year. But what they have done, how they have done it has worked, and they have filled a lot of the voids in that are missing that should lead them to be a very good football team again this year. So we'll see exactly where that goes, how that goes. Where's Alabama? Where's Auburn in this projection? We'll discuss that right after this on Jocks.
Keys? Check. Seatbelt? Check. Jocks 94.5 on your preset? Locked in. Your ride's not ready till Jocks is on. Jocks 94.5, your daily drive done right. Turn it on, lock it in.
Welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. If you go by the ESPN FPI projections, where teams are going to end up from a win-loss perspective, one that we have referenced that could be a little better than some people think are the Florida Gators. The ESPN FPI has them at 6.7 wins this season. So 6 wins knocking on the door of 7. And there are a lot of teams in that category with either just at 7 or 6 close to 7. So they'd be in a pretty big classification with other college football teams. But that'd probably be a little behind where we are projecting Florida to be this year. Zach Abolverdi joins us now. He covers the Florida Gators. We're going to talk about their fall camp, which has been set. But when you saw the ESPN FPI projection for Florida, Zach, was that a little ahead, behind, kind of where you are currently projecting season 1 for Jon Sumrall?
Yeah, I mean, it's slightly behind, but I also understand the projection just because of the season that they're coming off of and the question marks that they have. Like, there's obviously talent on this team, and there's certainly a chance that they can exceed it. But given the questions in the middle of the defense, the quarterback position, the offensive line, like those are big question marks. Do they have the bodies and the guys there to be able to make it work? Potentially, but that's something that's got to come to fruition.
So when you look at what is an appropriate evaluation of where we're at today, right now, are they being fairly represented in the preseason, I guess, predictions and the preseason schedule and the preseason rankings? You think that they're a little overvalued, undervalued, or about right?
Honestly, Greg, I think they're about right. Like, some publications have them as right on the cusp of a preseason top 25 team. Other ones have them right outside of it. I don't necessarily know if I'm ready to peg Florida as a preseason top 25 team. But they've got some very, very talented players at premium positions that if they can shore up some of their question marks, they've got a chance to be really good if they stay healthy. But I mean, coming off a 4-8 season and it's a brand new staff and some brand new players and transfers, I mean, half the roster's new. It's tough for me to put them at that point. But I can understand some of the folks that do have them there because, you know, they see the skill positions and they see some of the guys on defense. Like, there's some dudes now.
Let's go to fall camp. And, Zach, you reported that this is now in stone what fall camp, fall practice is going to look like. Anything stick out from that schedule that you saw released from the Gators of how they're going to manage fall practice this year?
No, I mean, it's pretty typical. I mean, they're going to start August 5th, so they're a month out from the season, and they're going to get, you know, 2 scrimmages in before they start their game prep. I'm very interested to see how it plays out just with some of the position battles going on. I really think that even if they name a quarterback, they're going to spend those first 2 weeks of the season and obviously training camp evaluating those 2 guys. And they might not be 100% concrete on a starter until they see how the first 2 games go before they go to that first SEC road trip at Auburn. That, along with kind of figuring out their offensive line and some of their defensive packages, man, that's going to be priority number 1 these next few weeks.
So when you look at where they're at as far as the quarterback competition is concerned, I mean, I think a lot of us anticipated it being Philo, comfort with the offense, understanding of the offense.
Correct.
But the more I've kind of heard some things down there, like, do not rule out the possibility of Tramel Jones winning this job. So where do you kind of see the quarterback battle going?
I mean, man, we can only go off of what we've seen, right? So, like, if you're just going off of the spring game, and I'm a nerd when it comes to this stuff, so, like, I'm paying attention to reps and who's repping with who and who's going out there for what series. Like, it was pretty clear to me just looking at who was in there with Harrison Moore, who's going to be Florida's starting center, that the way that it was at the end of the spring was that Aaron had the edge. But then you look at the spring game and you see the way Tramel played, you obviously cannot write him off. I think that there are some things about his game and some strengths that he has that is superior to Aaron Philo, but there's clearly advantages that Aaron has and probably a comfort level that the staff feels with him. But I think that based on the way that the spring game went, and not just that, like, they're going to keep giving Tramel opportunities to win the job. I do still think that it's Aaron's to lose, but he doesn't have a stranglehold on it. And I do think that they're going to give Tramel some opportunities, maybe even in the first half of the first couple games, just to see what he can do, but he's going to have to earn that.
You think what this team has the opportunity to be, and we all talk offense. Zach Abolverdi joining us now on the Higginbotham Hotline to talk Florida Gators. We don't focus a ton on defense, and it's easy to get enamored with Jaden Baugh, Dallas Wilson, some of the pieces you're going to have offensively, which we think the offense is going to be pretty good regardless of who's at quarterback. Like, my thought is you get a point guard that knows where to distribute the football, you're going to be in pretty good shape offensively. Not can the defense be okay, but who can the playmakers be? Who could the potential game wreckers be on that side of the ball?
Well, obviously, the Miles Grahams of the world. I think Bryce Thornton has got a chance to really take off in this defense. I think they gave him that number 1 jersey for a reason. To me, the guy that may be the biggest key to that defense is Brendan Bedd. They got to replace Mekhi Barrow in the middle at nose tackle, and the guy that did it last year when he was out for 4 games was Brendan Bedd. Now, he wasn't big enough to play nose tackle last year, or probably strong enough. He's put on weight and added strength this offseason so that he can be Florida's starting nose tackle. There's some other guys they want to count on there, but like, man, those guys don't grow on trees, and Florida doesn't have an obvious nose tackle body at that position. So is Brendan strong enough, big enough? Does he have enough stamina to handle that role game in, game out, week in and week out in the SEC? I think he can. Rusty Witt actually named him as one of the standouts in the weight room this offseason with the other two guys that aren't a surprise, Jaden Wood and Jaden Baugh. But for Brendan Bett to be getting talked about like that, that's, good news for the Gators. I think there's also question marks in the secondary. There's not a lot of great depth at corner. Like, the guys at the top are really good, but if there's an injury there, things could get dicey. And then figuring out their safeties, I think that they got the guys back there, but I would not be surprised to see Bryce Thornton playing maybe more star than we anticipate. Florida getting Cam Dooley and DJ Coleman on the field at safety. So there's a lot of different personnel and packages that they can play with on that side of the ball.
Defense, I think they'll be just fine. I don't know if they'll be elite by any stretch, but I think they'll be fine. The one position group that continues to hold me up is the offensive line. And
Yep.
Then again, though, I think if you talk to some folks down there, they're a little concerned. They've been publicly concerned about it, but I think internally they might be a little more ahead of schedule than they're giving off right now, but they're trying to issue a bit of a challenge to those guys throughout this offseason. So how likely is it that the offensive line is actually not a vulnerability, but potentially just a solid part of their offensive roster?
There's certainly the potential for that, and I think some of the concerns is really more of the unknown than it is like we don't think these guys can do it. I'm just for at some spots they weren't sure, maybe still aren't sure who is exactly going to emerge. I think the interior of their offensive line should be okay. Like, you get Najee Harris back, multi-year starter, Harrison Moore at center coming over from Georgia Tech. I think those would be two solid pieces. TJ Shanahan, I believe, from Penn State is going to be the guy that kind of emerges at right guard, and we'll start there. And, Jon Sumrall has called him one of the strongest, most physical players on the team. If that holds, that should be good for the interior of the offensive line. To me, it's about the tackle spots. I think Emeka Ugorji from Stanford, he's going to be their left tackle. I'm very intrigued about that right side, though, because you got Kanan Jones back, but they are really giving Bryce Lovett a look there at right tackle. And I know a lot of Florida fans maybe have wrote him off because he's kind of bounced around between guard and tackle, but they really like him on that right side, and I would not be surprised if he gave Kanan Jones a run for his money. So those two tackle spots are the ones I'm watching. You got Egan Boyer as well on the left side, but those are obviously two super important positions that you got to make sure are good to go.
Zach Abolverdi joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline talking Florida Gators. Interesting what you just brought up about Brendan Bett and nose, and it made me think back, and I know you offered versatility, and I know there are different maybe position groups that could add guys, take guys away, that could allow Brad White to do some different things. But
Sure.
I think back to when those Kentucky defenses were really good, and a lot of people are going to immediately go to, a Josh Allen off the edge or different players. When they were good, they had a dude that could sit in the middle and could eat up space and eat up blocks. Is that the sort of one of the discussion points of, hey, this is when Brad's group can really be good, is to have that guy that's not going to have 3.5 TFLs a game, not going to be one of the league leaders in tackles for loss or disruption, but allow everybody else to be able to do different things?
Yeah, I think you talk to the staff and you kind of ask around internally. That was 100% their biggest concern and something that they didn't feel great about after the portal and recruiting class. Like, they knew that the fact that they weren't going to be able to go out in the spring and get a second window to try and go out and get a big body up front, that's the problem. And that is 100% the thing that could hold them back defensively. Along with that, the other guy that I think that they got DJ Kalu from Baylor. He's a big body. I think the name to watch for is Joseph Mbachi. They really like this guy, man. He's a raw football player, came from overseas. He has not played the game in a long time, but they fought tooth and nail with Texas to get this kid on campus, and then they even fought off teams in the transfer portal this offseason. It was a freshman last year, but they've put on, I want to say, about like 25 pounds on this kid so that he can play more nose. But they think the sky's the limit for this guy. So he would be the one that I would point to on the defensive line as a potential breakout candidate. And if that happens, give them another option inside. I think that'll bode well for them.
Finally, as we get you out of here, what does success look like in your eyes for Jon Sumrall in year one?
Flip the record. If you go from 4-8 to 8-4, I think that Florida fans will be happy. I think that people will feel progress. I think that means that you're probably getting a marquee win at some point along the way. And that's also a record, I think, that will keep your top-rated recruiting class intact and maybe even attract some others at the end. But I think 8 is the magic number that will make people happy. 7 is still improvement. 6 and people will still be barking.
There you go. Zach, great stuff, man. Thanks for hopping on with us, talking some Florida Gators. Help put us into perspective what that practice is going to look like now that it's in the books and what that roster looks like as well, man. Look forward to catching up soon.
No doubt. Appreciate you, fellas.
There you go. Zach Abolverdi joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline to talk Florida Gators. Their fall practice in the books. August 5th, they get going. So we're right around the corner from fall practice inside the SEC. I was thinking back, Greg, thinking of a couple of other guys that we referenced there for some of Brad White's defenses. I want to follow up on that, discuss that a little further next on Jocks.
Jocks 94.5 is live on YouTube every weekday, plus video shorts and podcasts. Find us at Jocks 94.5 and smash the subscribe and like button so you never miss a moment. Jocks 94.5 on YouTube.
Guys tuning in, 8:50 Monday, July 13th, right here on Jocks. Going to talk a little bit more Florida, specifically defense, because we focus a lot on the offense. Still want to go back to Auburn and Alabama's projection in the FPI. We'll do that in the 9 o'clock hour. Chris Cartman going to join us in our next segment to sort of recap Big 12 Media Days. Before we get to a little more on Florida's defense and we move into what we feel like that might look like, if you're looking to move out of your home into a new home, Greg, who should you call?
It'd be Crocker Movers. They're a local company owned by an Iraq War veteran, Eric Crocker. Crocker believes in hiring movers you can trust to complete full background checks and run drug tests on every single employee. These are good guys. And you can trust them in your home. Whether you need your whole home packed up and moved, your company headquarters moved across the country, or you just want them to come rearrange your living room, they got you covered. They also do deliveries for furniture that you've purchased and need to get to your home. So call or visit them online today for a free quote. The website's CrockerMovingServices.com. That's CrockerMovingServices.com. Support your veterans by choosing Crocker Moving Service for your next move.
All right, one thing that I was thinking looking back on those Kentucky defenses, and I can remember talking to Brad White about this, and sometimes he would play guys that were a little lighter down inside. Now, Deion Walker wasn't lighter. He'd play some nose, but he wasn't a sit and take on type player. I mean, he was, hey, we're going to move him. We're going to attack him. He was a little bit, I mean, yes, he was a huge body, but he was somebody that was going to shoot gaps, change directions often. But those guys like Josiah Hayes, Keyshawn Silver, Justin Rogers, all over 320. When he had those guys to be able to sit there, and like I can remember I think it was Trevon Rebicka, who was like, he was just barely over 300. He wasn't the same kind of a guy. And then he would move not a DeAndre Scribb, like a Josh Paschal would play inside some if he had to, but they weren't sit and take on guys. But he had those big 350, 320, 330 nose guards. That allowed his defense to be what he really wants it to be. And if Florida can find that guy, Greg, I think it goes a long way for what the Florida defense might be this fall.
But it also changed last year. Now, was that because Mark Stoops' philosophy, hey, we need to be more aggressive, we need to be more athletic, we need to move more? Did they change because they couldn't get that 350-pound nose? Or did they change because they feel like being disruptive up front is actually going to be more beneficial long term? I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah,
I think you can make a case for both sides.
Yeah, I don't know if they had the same kind of guy last year. And I think
But is that intentional?
Well, I think they still want that because like Khalil Saunders was the one they tried to do that with last year, and I think he was a little dinged up and he's not quite 300. I think that allows them to be aggressive in other places when they get that. Because that forces the middle of your offensive line to pay attention to what's happening there. Like I think David Gusta tried to play down in there a little bit last year. He kind of wasn't the same type guy. But that allows them to be different off the edges, to be more aggressive with linebackers. Like that, I think, allows him to play the style that he wants to play, even by being more aggressive and moving in different ways. So, and we know, listen, that's where it's all going. We've talked about it. So many different defense coordinators are, hey, we're going to slant, we're going to stunt, we're going to pressure, we're going to line up different places. But I just think when he has that guy in the middle, that's when he's at full tilt, that allows him to be different in so many different ways and be what he wants to be as well.
Well, I think that's entirely possible. And when you have a guy that can anchor and just eat 2 blocks, it can be really helpful to allow other guys to get freed up to get their one-on-ones. Like, it makes perfect sense. But I also think, too, it's harder and harder to get that 350-pound nose tackle that can, like, play 50 snaps, 40 snaps. There's just, how many guys are there like that nowadays? I just don't feel like
Not
there's
many.
many. I think it's easier to find the guy that's a little sawed off, maybe 6'3", 290, that can move. And I got to create it with my scheme. And you also look at Indiana, for example. Like, how many 340-pounders do they have? 0.
None.
But they did it with scheme and slanting and moving and making it hard to hit. So I don't know the answer. I think philosophically you can go in a lot of different ways, but I do know in general defenses have become more aggressive and less sound. Brad White is the king of being sound. Like that's he's all about being sound. But we've seen more and more places like Blake Baker, Indiana was pretty sound, but they're definitely, I mean, they could get out of a gap from time to time. It could definitely happen the way they play. I mean, you're seeing more and more. It's like, all right, I don't care what you do. You just beat that guy across his face, and we're going to make the offense wrong. They're going to lose 3 yards, and now they're playing 2nd and 13. So I don't know. We'll see. Maybe Brad White has evolved a bit, but we won't know until we kick off here in a few months.
Yeah, it's going to be fun either way, because I think there's a couple of teams like Auburn, Florida, Tennessee, Missouri that could easily surprise and easily fall backwards. Whether that be things not coming together, an injury or two, a lack of leadership, we just do not know things that we feel like we want to know, need to know, have to know about how good those teams are going to be. It's just going to make this season super intriguing. And like we said, if you go by the computers, ESPN FPI, they're not projecting a single SEC team to win 10 games, which would go against or go with kind of what Paul said. One of his biggest questions is, how do you reference going multiple years in a row now not winning a national title? We recap the Big 12 Media Days next on Jocks.
This is McElroy and Cubelic in the morning.
Hey, I'm Chris Van Vliet. Go behind the scenes and beyond the headlines with the biggest names in pro wrestling and beyond.
Mr. Sandman. All I ever wanted to be was a pro wrestler. So I got to live my life and make people really happy.
The Heartbreak Kid himself, Shawn Michaels.
Do you think there's anybody better than you were?
I think I was great at what I did, and I think other people were great at what they did as well. Greatness is more a mindset, I think, than anything else.
Mindset, motivation, insight with Chris Van Vliet. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
The United States Soccer Federation presents the U.S. Soccer Podcast.
I'm your host, Megan Klingenberg. One thing I promised you is an all-access pass that you wouldn't get on any other show. And we found out that whoever comes on scores a goal. Burhoff, Freeman, Trusty. U.S. Soccer Podcast magic is real, people. We still got plenty of coverage all throughout this World Cup. Okay, let's get into it.
The U.S. Soccer Podcast, presented by Henkel. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
Scrolling with Haley. Join Haley Caronia as she scrolls through the biggest headlines.
If you haven't watched this show before, we do blind reactions. I have not seen these videos, so I am seeing them for the first time with all of you. We're going to implement the tinfoil hat time segments and all the stuff you know and love. And I'm going to finish the show and answer some of your questions. Someone asked me what made you get into podcasting, and I was producing podcasts for other people. And I was like, I could do this for myself, and here I am.
Scrolling with Haley. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.